welcome back to another Just 5 Mins. Yes, it's that time again, whether you like it or not. Although you can just stop listening. I mean, there is that option. Um, I'll cry, but there is that option. Anyway, so what have we got today? Well, a while ago, I don't even know the episode, I've lost count. But I did do a look at things like Docker containers versus WASM containers or WebAssembly. If you don't know what any of those things are, you're probably better off go have a nap. Use this time to have a nap instead. But Docker is everywhere. Docker containers, there's it's been around for a long, long time. So is WebAssembly actually. Um, but WebAssembly, from my perspective, in the .NET world, um, really came to prominence with Steve Sanderson at Microsoft. Incidentally, also the inventor of Knockout.js, which was back in, crikey, was that 2012, 30, something like that. It was actually a really good JavaScript framework, that. But anyway, he ended up working for Microsoft and squirreling away. And I don't know if that's the right. I think that's coding, isn't it? Squirreling away. And he came up with essentially Blazor. So the .NET Blazor, where you're not limited to just this now, because in the latest version of .NET, you can run server-side Blazor clients. Anyway, long story, WebAssembly is what Blazor uses on the client side. Okay, and so WebAssembly is literally a compiled version of things like C#, so it can run compile C# in the browser. You can run Go, C++, Rust, Python. There's all sorts of things that you can run natively in the browser, but not just the browser, because there's also something called WASI, which is the WebAssembly infrastructure. Okay. Anyway, all of that aside, the WebAssembly, when you compile something to WebAssembly, it's a really lightweight sort of compiled binary, essentially. Again, it can run everywhere. Everywhere that WASM is, so sort of supplied, if you like, which is pretty much everywhere. And it's interesting. I read an article, and even I think one of the co-founders of Docker saying, you know, basically, if WASM existed in 2008 when they created Docker, if WASM and WASI, the infrastructure, existed, we wouldn't need to have created Docker. That's how important the WebAssembly on the server is. So that's the thing. WebAssembly doesn't just run, it's been popularized recently to run in the browser, but it can run on servers, which even Docker themselves now, it's in beta, but they do have essentially Docker using the WASM workload, the runtime, the WASM runtime. And incidentally, this is a whole other thing as well, is that the Docker structure versus containered, it's literally container D. Okay. There's a link. I've got some research about that, but it's basically two types of runtimes. The container D is, it uses the Open Container Initiative, OCI, so it's compliant for all the runtimes. And interestingly, fly.io that I reviewed a little while ago uses that as well. But anyway, the point being is that it's WASM is becoming a real viable option instead of Docker containers, because they're a lot more lightweight. There's a lot of advantages, and if you can remember with Docker, it was a case where there was Linux containers or Windows containers. I'm sure people still run Windows containers, but you have to switch between the two, whereas WASM would be just WASM containers anywhere. So I think it's an interesting one. I'll put some links below, but that's what I've got this time around. And lo and behold, that's almost 5 minutes for once. So on that note, I shall bid you a good week ahead, or a weekend, whichever, when you're listening to this, and take care until the next one.